My name is Lauren Parker, and I'm 29 years old. On paper, my life is the kind that makes bankers lean back, loosen their ties, and say, "You're exactly the kind of client we like. Stable job, clean credit, no drama that can't be summarized in a spreadsheet." I work in IT at a mid-sized company. My days are lines of code, tickets, and people saying, "It's probably a glitch," while I quietly track down exactly which choice someone made 3 weeks ago to break everything today. I don't chase adrenaline, I chase clean deployments and balanced numbers. My apartment looks like my brain. One bedroom, neutral walls, furniture that all passed through a coupon code, and a budget spreadsheet before I clicked order. The lease is in my name. The utilities are in my name. The chipped mugs in the cabinet sit next to a color-coded budget binder that knows the due date of every bill and the exact drop in my soul if my credit score ever fell below 780. I've never thought of myself as romantic. Responsible, sure. Boring, maybe. But 4 years ago, I met Derek Miller, and for a while, he made all that responsibility feel worth it. Derek is 27. He's charming in that loud, center-of-the-room way. Big laugh, bigger stories. He works part-time at a trendy boutique and insists he's still figuring out his passion. My passion is paying my bills on time. Somehow we worked. I'd been planning for months to propose. Yeah, I know. It's usually the other way around in the stories. But I've never cared much about usually. Derek always talked about how he wanted someone who wasn't afraid to go after what she wanted, so I decided I'd do that. Literally. I picked up extra projects, stayed late, skipped takeout and little luxuries, ate sad desk lunches while my co-workers ordered delivery, watched my ring line item slowly grow in my budget binder. Finally, I walked into a local jeweler's shop and met Rick. Older guy, kind eyes, hands that looked like they'd held 1,000 tiny miracles in metal and stone. We picked out a 1.5 carat diamond together. It was beautiful. Clear, bright, the kind of stone that made the light catch and dance. 12,000, he said, almost apologetic. I signed anyway. My entire savings, plus a small loan from my brother. It wasn't impulsive, it was planned. I divided the cost in my mind over years of memories with Derek and decided it was worth it. 2 weeks before I planned to propose, we were at dinner with his friends, Brittany and Ashley, the usual, plus a couple of people I barely knew. Wine flowing, playlists humming, the whole table buzzing with stories about work and relationships. At some point, Brittany rolled her eyes and said, "My ex actually tried to take the ring back when we broke up. Like, sir, I earned that." Everybody laughed. Derek leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "That's why you establish ownership early," he said. "When Lauren proposes," he squeezed my hand and smirked at me. "I'm making it clear the ring is mine no matter what. I've earned it after 4 years." The table went quiet in that way people do when they're not sure if something was a joke. Brittany raised an eyebrow. "Earned it how?" Derek shrugged. 4 years of my 20s dealing with her late-night deployments, her spreadsheets, her weird obsession with her credit score. He chuckled. "That ring is compensation. Minimum compensation for dating me." Ashley let out a nervous laugh. "Derek, that's kind of harsh." "It's realistic," he said, unbothered. "Men need to understand our time has value too. If we break up, I keep the ring. Period. Non-negotiable." My brain did this thing it does in crisis. It went very, very still. I heard myself say, "That's only fair," and I even managed a smile. Derek looked surprised for half a second, then pleased, like I'd passed some sort of test, like I'd been properly trained. But that night, lying in bed beside him while he snored softly, I stared at the ceiling and replayed it. Compensation. Earned it. Minimum payout. I'd always thought of this ring as a symbol. He'd called it a settlement. By 3 a.m, my stomach felt like it was full of ice. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Derek was still asleep, one arm flung over his face. I stood there for a moment, watching him, trying to make the knot in my chest untangle itself. It didn't. On my way to work, I made a detour. Rick glanced up as the bell over the door chimed. "Lauren," he said, smiling. "Everything okay?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. I told him what Derek had said. Not every word, but enough. How he'd called the ring compensation. How he'd declared in front of his friends that it was his no matter what. Rick listened without interrupting, polishing a ring with slow, practiced motions. When I finished, he sighed. "I've been in this business 30 years, he said. "I've seen people cry over rocks, and I've seen them throw them across the room. You sure you want to go through with this?" I still want to propose, I said. The words surprised me with how true they felt. But I need to protect myself, just in case I'm not just being paranoid. Rick's eyes sharpened. All right, I think I've got something for you. He pulled out a tray and pointed to a ring that looked exactly like the one I'd bought. Same setting, same style, same sparkle, at least to my untrained eye. This one, he said, is cubic zirconia, 800 if you were buying it outright. To most people, it'll look exactly like the diamond. My heart thudded. What about the ring I already bought? You're within the return window for the stone, he said. We can swap the diamond out and put the CZ in the same setting. 300 for the swap. We'll keep the diamond in its box and certification, and you can take it separately. I hesitated. It felt sneaky, wrong even. But then I remembered Derek's voice, laughing while he talked about my love like it was back pay. Compensation. Do it, I said quietly. Rick studied me for a long second, then nodded. All right, give me a little time. I watched him work in the back under bright lights, tiny tools glinting in his hands. It felt like watching a surgeon perform an operation I wasn't sure I should have authorized. He came back with two things: the ring box Derek would see, and a smaller, plain envelope containing the diamond in its own velvet case, along with the certification papers. Keep this somewhere safe, he said, tapping the envelope. Somewhere only you control. Thank you, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. For all of it. He gave me a look that was half sympathy, half warning. If someone tells you exactly how they'll treat you in the future, he said, believe them the first time. On my way home, I stopped again, this time at my gym. I'd been meaning to get a locker anyway, someplace to stash my shoes and shampoo instead of hauling them back and forth. Now it had another purpose. I rented a locker with a solid metal door and a decent lock. No flimsy combination thing that anyone could twist open. I put the envelope inside, next to a pair of old sneakers and a rolled-up towel. The real diamond. The real investment. Sitting in a metal box in a concrete hallway that smelled faintly of sweat and cleaning solution. As I snapped the lock shut, a thought slid quietly into my mind, uninvited and unwelcome. If you trust him, why do you feel the need to hide this? I told myself it was just being cautious, just smart, just responsible Lauren doing what she always did, planning for worst-case scenarios. But the truth settled somewhere deep under my ribs. For the first time since I'd fallen in love with Derek Miller, I wasn't sure he and I were on the same side. And I had the uncomfortable feeling that one day soon, that little metal locker was going to matter a lot more than I wanted it to. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at myself in a navy dress I'd bought on clearance and never worn. Okay, I told my reflection, you're about to do this. No spreadsheets, no pros and cons list. Just jump. The ring box sat on the counter beside my toothbrush, looking much heavier than it really was. Inside was the cubic zirconia stone, set in the same delicate band I'd picked for Derek. Somewhere in a metal locker at my gym, the real diamond waited like a secret version of our future. I took a breath, picked up the box, and slipped it into my bag. Derek's favorite restaurant was one of those places that tried very hard to look like it wasn't trying. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, reclaimed wood tables. I'd made a reservation weeks ago. His mom and sister were already there when I arrived, along with Brittany and Ashley. A photographer I'd hired sat quietly at the bar, pretending not to be waiting for my signal. Derek walked in 5 minutes late, like always, with that easy grin that used to make my chest feel warm instead of tight. Wow, he said, kissing my cheek. You look amazing. So do you, I said, and I meant it. That was the worst part. I still loved him. I still wanted this to work. Dinner felt like a countdown. I laughed in the right places, passed plates, watched his hands as he talked with too much enthusiasm about some boutique customer who'd spent half her paycheck on a jacket because she knew she deserved it. Deserve, earn, compensation, all his favorite words. When dessert plates were cleared, I caught the photographer's eye and nodded. Hey, I said, heart pounding, can I say something? Derek's eyebrows shot up. You're scaring me a little. Good, I joked weakly. It'll make this part more memorable. I stood up, moved around to his side of the table, and suddenly every sound in the restaurant went soft around the edges. My hands were shaking. Derek Miller, I said, dropping to one knee. His eyes widened. His mom gasped. Brittany clapped a hand over her mouth. We've had 4 years of late-night talks and dumb inside jokes, and you stealing my fries even when you said you weren't hungry. You drive me crazy." I managed a shaky laugh. "And I don't want to stop being driven crazy anytime soon. I love you. I want to keep choosing you. Will you marry me?" I opened the box. For half a second, the world held its breath with him. Then he screamed. Actually screamed. "Oh my God," he said, grabbing the ring so fast I almost dropped the box. "Are you serious? Lauren, look at this rock." "Yes?" I asked, because somehow he still hadn't said it. "Yes," he shouted. "Yes, I'll marry you, obviously." Everyone at the table cheered. The photographer snapped away as Derek shoved the ring onto his own finger to see how it looked, then immediately started taking selfies. He posted within minutes. I saw the caption over his shoulder. "She finally did it. Look at this rock." His mom pulled me aside while he showed his sister how the light hit it. "That must have cost a fortune," she whispered. "Lauren, honey, you didn't have to." "It's an investment in our future," I said. It was technically true, just not in the way she thought. For a while after that, things were good, or at least loud enough to feel like good. We set a date. We browsed venues. Derek talked about tuxes and playlists and how epic our first dance needed to be if we wanted people to remember the night properly. Then wedding planning Derek arrived. Or maybe that's when I started seeing him clearly. Every vendor meeting was a performance. "See this," he'd say, flashing the ring at the florist or the coordinator. "My fiancé knows how to treat a man. We're not skimping on the wedding." He wanted a $60,000 wedding. $60,000. I brought my laptop to the kitchen table one night, opened a spreadsheet, and showed him my carefully stretched $15,000 budget. "This is already me pushing it," I said. "We can have something beautiful with this. We don't need—" "That's what credit cards are for," he interrupted. "We're not starting a marriage in debt." He leaned back, studying me. "Then maybe you should have thought about that before buying such an expensive ring," he said. "Now everyone expects a wedding that matches." It landed like a slap. My love wasn't just compensation anymore, it was collateral. The entitlement didn't stop there. He rolled out what he called his wife training program. He said it with a laugh, like it was a joke, but he made an actual schedule. Sunday evenings, sitting at my kitchen table with bullet points. Topics included: why my career comes first now, managing your gaming time, which was funny because I played maybe 3 hours a week, appropriate gift-giving schedules with minimums, $500 for birthdays, $1,000 for anniversaries. Moving closer to my parents, which meant 45 extra minutes tacked onto my commute each way. I sat there, fingers laced together, listening to the man I loved outline how my life would shrink to fit into his. "Derek," I said finally, "this doesn't feel like training. It feels like a contract I didn't agree to." "It's just expectations," he said. "You set them already, with the ring." The ring. Always the ring. He posted weekly ring appreciation shots on social media, close-ups of his hand, filters turned up, captions like, "When your partner knows your worth, minimum standard. If it doesn't sparkle like this, don't talk to me." He joined a Facebook group for people with significant rings. Entry required proof your ring was over $10,000. He bragged about being well above the threshold. One night, Brittany texted me privately. "Is Derek okay? He made us calculate our boyfriends' ring budgets based on their salaries last night. It was a lot." I stared at my phone, feeling that icy knot again. He wasn't just proud, he was obsessed. I didn't know that the tipping point would be a Tuesday afternoon. I was at my desk at work, trying to fix a bug someone had introduced in the last update, when my phone started ringing nonstop. "Derek." I silenced it twice. On the third call, I stepped into a conference room and answered. "Hey, I'm in the middle of—" "They're saying it's fake," he shouted. My heart dropped. "What?" "The ring, Lauren. I took it to get insured, and this jeweler is saying it's cubic zirconia. He's lying, right? Tell me he's lying." My legs felt weak. I sank into a chair. "You took it to a different jeweler?" I asked. "For appraisal, for insurance, because that's what responsible people do, unlike someone who spends 12 grand on a fake ring." "Derek, calm down," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "There has to be a mistake. Let me call Rick, okay? The original jeweler. We'll sort this out." "Get your receipt," he said, voice shaking. "Meet me there in an hour." I hung up and called Rick immediately, explained in pieces what had happened. He was quiet for a moment. Then, "All right, come in. I'll take care of it." An hour later, Derek practically slammed the ring onto Rick's counter. "This other jeweler says this is fake," Derek said loudly. "Tell him he's wrong." Rick picked up the ring, raised his loop, and examined it slowly. The silence stretched so long I could hear the ticking of a clock somewhere behind the counter. Finally, Rick lowered the loop. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I'm afraid this is indeed cubic zirconia." Derek went white. "What? No, no, that's impossible. She bought a diamond. $12,000. Here, from you. Tell him, Lauren." "Rick," I said softly, "could you check your records?" He gave me a look, just for a second, then turned and pulled out a worn receipt book. "Ah," he said, "here we are." He set it on the counter, angled so Derek could see. "Lauren Parker. Purchase. Cubic zirconia ring. $800. Says so right here." I put on my best shocked face. "What?" I said. That can't be right." Derek stared at the receipt, then at me. His throat worked, like swallowing hurt. "You," he whispered. "You gave me a fake ring." I don't understand," I said, letting my voice shake. "I saved for months." He didn't wait for the rest. He grabbed the ring off the counter and stormed out of the shop so fast the bell almost tore off the door. I apologized to Rick in a rush. He just winked. "That's one way for the truth to come out," he said quietly. That night was nuclear. Derek paced my living room, shouting, waving the ring around like a weapon. "4 years," he said, voice cracking. 4 years, and you give me costume jewelry?" "There has to be an explanation," I said, which was technically true. Maybe there was a mistake with the paperwork. "The explanation is you're a fraud," he snapped. "A liar, a cheap loser who thinks I'm worth $800. The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. He packed a bag with furious movements, shoving clothes into it without folding. On his way out, he stopped, pulled out his phone, and started typing. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Letting people know who you really are," he said. "If you can scam me, what else are you lying about?" The door slammed. By the time I sat down on the couch, my phone was buzzing with notifications. Derek's post was already up. A close-up of the ring, captioned, "When your fiancé saves for months and still gives you a fake ring, 4 years wasted?" The comments were brutal, and every ping felt like a little hammer, tapping at a crack I'd been trying not to see. By morning, the post had over 200 comments. Some were strangers defending him, others were mutual friends asking for his side of the story, as if there weren't already an entire narrative curated for them in his feed. And then there were the ones that hurt worse. People I'd considered friends writing things like, "Wow, that's cold. Can't believe she'd do that. Good thing you found out before the wedding." My name was tagged in half of them. I turned off notifications, but the silence that followed was worse. I sat on my kitchen floor, coffee going cold beside me, wondering how everything had flipped so fast. 4 years of love, boiled down to a rumor that I was a con artist with a cheap ring. That's when my phone buzzed again. A message from Brittany. "Girl, I'm sorry, but you need to see this." Attached was a screenshot from Derek's Instagram, posted 3 months ago. It was one of those smug relationship advice posts. His caption read, "Establish ownership early. The ring is compensation. 4 years isn't free." Brittany had commented on it publicly. Maybe this explains the ring situation. The replies were already turning. People were asking questions, calling out the hypocrisy. Some even defended me. Wait, didn't he literally say he deserved it no matter what? Sounds like she dodged a bullet. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. He'd told me who he was. I'd just refused to listen. By the end of the day, Derek had deleted the post, but screenshots were everywhere. That night he called. When I saw his name flash across the screen, my stomach twisted. But I answered. He didn't start with hello. "Did you tell Brittany to post that?" "No. She's ruined everything. Everyone's turning on me because of you." "Because of me?" I repeated, my voice barely steady. "Derek, you're the one who said—" "I know what I said," he cut me off. "But you knew what I meant. You knew it was a joke." "No, Derek, it wasn't." There was a pause, the kind that lives on the edge between anger and pleading. Then quieter. "Look, I overreacted, okay? The ring doesn't matter. None of it does. I love you, Lauren. I want us back. Forget the ring, forget the posts, forget everything." I almost laughed, almost cried. I couldn't tell which one was trying harder to escape. "You said I was a fraud." "I didn't mean it. You told everyone I scammed you." "I'll fix it. I'll delete it all. We'll start over. No rings, no expectations. I just want you." I closed my eyes. For a second, I wanted to believe him. To step back into that version of us that existed before cubic zirconia and compensation. "That's beautiful, Derek," I said finally. "I love you too." His breath caught, just a little relief, soft and dangerous. Then he smiled through the phone. I could hear it. "So," he said lightly, "when are you giving me the real ring?" My blood went cold. "What?" "Come on, Lauren," he laughed. "I know you have it, the real diamond. This was all a test, right? To see if I loved you for you. You can tell me now. Me. There's no other ring, Derek. He went silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was sharp. Don't lie to me. Nobody saves for months for an $800 ring. I did. Bullsh. He stopped himself, exhaled hard, and then softened his tone again. Okay, if you say so. But maybe we could upgrade now, since we're saving on the wedding. Upgrade with what money? You could take out a loan. My dad knows a guy who does great rates. No, his voice cracked. Why are you being so secretive? Partners don't keep secrets. Partners don't demand proof of love through jewelry, I said. Then prove you're not lying, he said. Show me your bank statements. I'll drop it if you do. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop. Absolutely not. He stood up so fast I heard the scrape of his chair. Something crashed. I'm done with this humiliation. Either you give me a proper ring or what? Or we're over. My chest rose and fell once before I answered. Okay. He blinked. Okay? Yeah, we're over. He looked stunned, like no one had ever told him no before. I stood and handed him the small box. You can keep the CZ ring, I said quietly. Consider it compensation for 4 years. His jaw clenched. He left without another word. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next day, Rick called. You might want to know, he said carefully. Your ex came into the store this morning with his mother and sister. He demanded a refund for the ring. Brought a camera crew. Well, a phone, but still. Said it was fraud. Oh my God. Don't worry, Rick said dryly. I handled it. Later, I found the video online. Derek, holding the ring, waving paperwork, voice full of righteous fury. This woman scammed me, sold me a fake ring. I demand a refund. Rick's voice, calm as ever, floated from behind the counter. Ma'am, you're not the purchaser. Only Ms. Parker can return it. It's my ring, Derek shouted. She gave it to me. Then it's a gift, Rick replied, and we don't refund gifts. The video ended with Derek sputtering something about legal action. He posted it anyway, editing out Rick's responses to make himself look like the victim. But people who actually knew Rick filled the comments with the truth. Rick doesn't lie. I was there that day. He handled it professionally. Derek's full of it. Within hours, the story flipped again. But Derek wasn't done. A week later, I got a manila envelope in the mail. Small claims court. Notice of suit. Derek was suing me for $25,000. $12,000 for the promised ring value. $8,000 for emotional distress. $5,000 for wedding preparation expenses. I sat at my kitchen table and laughed. The kind of laugh that's closer to disbelief than humor. When I called my lawyer, he sounded almost amused. He handed you the case on a silver platter, he said, after reading through the screenshots I'd sent. Derek's posts about compensation, the wife training schedules, the group chats bragging about ring ownership. But Derek didn't stop there. He showed up at my office one afternoon, stood at reception, and told anyone who would listen that I'd financially abused him. Security escorted him out twice. Then came the text message, a picture of a hospital bed. Derek looking pale and sad, an IV taped to his arm. I'm in the hospital. Doctors think it's serious. Maybe now you'll understand what really matters. Let's stop fighting. You can bring the real ring tomorrow. It's not too late. I stared at the photo, a lump rising in my throat. For a second, panic fluttered through me. Then instinct kicked in. I sent the image to my brother, who worked as a medical tech. He texted back 3 minutes later. This photo's from a stock image library. He didn't even crop the watermark properly. I sent Derek a screenshot of that watermark. He replied instantly. That was a test. You failed. A real partner would have stepped up. I didn't respond. But my lawyer saved every message. Because by then, we both knew Derek wasn't just heartbroken. He was spiraling. And the story wasn't over. 2 weeks later, I learned just how far Derek was willing to go. It started quietly. Fake dating app notifications on profiles I hadn't touched in years. Old accounts I'd forgotten still existed suddenly had matches. A few of them even sent flirty messages that felt off. One asked what I'd do for a man who treated me better than my ex. Another said, maybe you should show me that famous spreadsheet. The tone was too specific. The phrases were too familiar. So I did what I do best. I investigated. I traced the messages, ran the usernames through a few background checks, and cross-referenced the IP data from their emails. Every single one pointed back to him. Derek had created at least 4 fake profiles. Different names, different faces, but the same writing style, the same phrases. He was catfishing me, trying to get screenshots of me saying something he could twist into evidence for court. When I sent the data trail to my lawyer, he actually whistled. "This man is single-handedly building your defense," he said. "At this rate, you'll get the restraining order before the hearing even starts." But Derek didn't stop. 3 days later, I woke up to 37 missed calls and a string of text messages that started at midnight and didn't stop until dawn. "You think you're smart? I know about the real ring. You're not as clever as you think. You can't hide it forever." The last one made my blood run cold. "I know where you keep it." He couldn't have known about the gym locker. I'd never told anyone. But paranoia doesn't wait for logic. I went there anyway, heart hammering so hard I thought I might be sick. When I turned the corner, I froze. The lock was broken. My hands shook as I opened the door. Inside, my sneakers and towel were tossed around, the envelope gone, but only the envelope. Except I'd already moved the diamond a week earlier. I'd had a bad feeling after the hospital stunt, so I'd put it in a safety deposit box at my bank. All that had been inside the envelope was a note. A plain white paper with 4 words written in neat black pen. "Nice try, not here." I stood there staring at it, half horrified, half relieved. He'd broken into the locker thinking he'd find the diamond. But he hadn't. And now I had proof of something more serious than obsession. I called the police that afternoon and filed a report for break-in and harassment, attaching screenshots, timestamps, everything. My lawyer added it to the growing mountain of evidence. Still, when court day arrived, I wasn't ready for what I saw. Derek showed up in a white tuxedo, not a suit, not business casual, a full, glossy, rhinestone-lined tuxedo that shimmered under the courthouse lights. His mom and sister came too, dressed in pale beige, like they were bridesmaids. Even the judge blinked twice before saying, "Mr. Miller, is there a reason for the attire?" Derek smiled like it was a pageant. "Just symbolic, Your Honor. Closure." The judge's expression didn't change. Let's hope it's also brief. His lawyer launched into the opening argument, full of righteous language about betrayal and emotional harm. He accused me of malicious deceit, of tricking a trusting man with counterfeit jewelry. I sat quietly, hands folded, listening. When it was our turn, my lawyer stood, calm, methodical. "Your Honor," he said, "this case is, in essence, a performance. The plaintiff has already provided overwhelming evidence against himself." He handed over a printed binder. Inside were Derek's own words, screenshots of his ring as compensation post, text messages demanding bank statements, and his so-called wife training documents, complete with bullet points on how to control my schedule and finances. Then came the fake hospital photos, the fake dating profiles, the late-night threats. The judge flipped through the pages slowly, her expression changing from annoyed to astonished to visibly disgusted. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Miller, did you create these fake accounts?" Derek adjusted his tie. "I was conducting my own investigation." "Did you, or did you not, create them?" "Yes," he muttered. "Did you send Ms. Parker falsified medical documents claiming to be hospitalized?" "I was testing her loyalty." The judge sighed. "And were you aware that this document," she tapped a printout, "has a Getty Images watermark?" He didn't answer. The judge leaned back, exhaled slowly, then turned to Derek's lawyer. "Counselor, are you aware your client publicly described the ring as compensation for enduring his relationship?" The poor man rubbed his temples. "I am now, Your Honor." The ruling took less than 10 minutes. "Case dismissed," the judge said, voice firm. "With prejudice. Plaintiff will pay the defendant's legal fees in full. Additionally, given the harassment and false claims, this court grants Ms. Parker's request for a restraining order effective immediately." Derek's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am," the judge said, her patience gone. "And Mr. Miller, I strongly suggest you seek professional help before your next relationship. Court adjourned." As I walked out, Derek's mother intercepted me in the parking lot. "How could you humiliate him like this?" she hissed. "He loved you." "He loved what he thought I could buy him," I said quietly. "There's a difference." "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but at least it'll be my mistake to regret." Her daughter, Derek's sister, chimed in, eyes sharp. "You're going to die alone, you know that?" I smiled faintly. Better alone than owned. They glared as I walked away. For a few days, the quiet that followed felt almost unnatural. No messages, no calls, no chaos. Then my brother called one night, half laughing, half horrified. "Lauren," he said, "check Derek's Instagram. Now." My stomach dropped. There he was, standing in front of a mirror, grinning, holding up his hand. A massive diamond sparkled on his finger. His caption read, "When God closes a door, he opens a jewelry box. Upgraded to someone who knows my worth." The comments were a battlefield. "Congrats? That clarity, though, cloudy with a chance of cubic. Isn't that the display model from Rick's store? And then one comment from Rick's verified account. Congratulations on the upgrade. Funny, it looks exactly like the moissanite display piece that went missing last week. Police report already filed. The post disappeared within minutes. But the internet doesn't forget. Screenshots spread like wildfire. And that's when I knew the story wasn't quite done with me yet. A week later, the story took its final, twisted turn. It was a Thursday morning. Gray sky, drizzle, the kind of day that makes the world feel muffled. I was pouring coffee when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. The text read, "I know you have the real diamond. My PI saw you at the gym that day. Give me my ring, or I'm going to the police." For a moment, I just stared at it. Then I actually laughed. It was the kind of tired, disbelieving laugh that comes when the absurdity finally breaks the tension. I forwarded the message straight to my lawyer, who forwarded it to the detective already handling Rick's theft case. Within hours, the pieces fell together like dominoes. Derek had hired a private investigator, or so he thought. Turned out the PI was his cousin Kyle, who owned a camera and a bad attitude. Kyle had followed me to the gym, seen me open my locker, and told Derek I was hiding something valuable there. 2 nights later, they'd broken into the locker. But of course, the diamond hadn't been there for weeks. All they'd found was that note, "Nice try, not here." Still, Derek had decided to prove I'd stolen from him. He marched straight to Rick's shop and snatched the moissanite display ring off the counter, the same one Rick later noticed missing. He'd then posted it online, pretending it was the real diamond I'd supposedly hidden. When the police traced the theft back to him, the story unraveled fast. Derek was arrested 2 days later, at work, in front of the boutique customers he always bragged about impressing. Rick, still the quiet hero of this entire saga, called me that night. "I told them I wouldn't press full charges," he said, "if he returns the ring and pays the legal fees." I blinked. "You're letting him off that easy?" Rick chuckled softly. "Karma's not done with him yet, trust me." He was right. Derek had to take out a loan to pay Rick back. I heard about it through the same mutuals who'd once flooded his comment sections with heart emojis. And then came the 6-paragraph apology. "Lauren, I realize now that I let pride and greed ruin everything. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I was stupid. The ring never mattered. You were the real diamond, and I was too blind to see it. I'm in therapy now. Please believe I've changed. We can start over. No rings, no expectations, just love." I read it twice, then typed a single word back. "No." 3 minutes later, another text. "I know where you keep the diamond. I'll go to the cops." That was the last message he ever sent me. Because I didn't reply. I didn't need to. My lawyer did, by forwarding it to the police as another restraining order violation. This time, the court didn't hesitate. Derek spent 30 days in jail, later reduced to community service because it was his first offense. And in one of those small poetic acts the universe seems to specialize in, his community service assignment was at a senior-centered jewelry workshop, helping elderly volunteers string beads and polish stones. The instructor, Rick's wife. I know because she emailed me a month later. "Don't worry, dear. Every week he has to sit there while I tell the students about this entitled young man who once thought love could be measured in carats. I make him label the fake gems by hand. He's getting very good at spotting cubic zirconia." I sold the real diamond not long after. Used part of the money to pay back my brother, the rest to fund something I hadn't done in years, a solo vacation. No spreadsheets, no responsibilities, just me, a camera, and an ocean that didn't care who I used to be. I posted a single photo, sunburned skin, wide smile, toes buried in white sand. The caption read, "Learning what real value looks like." The next day, my lawyer emailed me again. Apparently Derek, under yet another fake profile, had commented on the post, "Living your best life with my money." That violation earned him another 90 hours of community service. Rick's wife later told me he's now in charge of teaching new volunteers how to tell the difference between real and fake stones. Somewhere, the universe was laughing too. People always ask if I regret not giving him the real ring, if it would have saved me all that chaos. But I don't. Because that $12,000 diamond taught me an $800 lesson. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When they tell you love is a transaction, give them the exact value they've earned. Nothing. These days, my apartment feels quieter, lighter. My chipped mugs still sit next to my budget binder, but there's no trace of tension in the air. Sometimes I still glance at the empty ring box tucked in my drawer, just to remind myself that I made it out before the story swallowed me whole. And if you ever find yourself planning a proposal, if you ever find yourself second-guessing what you see in someone's eyes when they talk about love, remember this. A real diamond doesn't need to prove its worth, but the fake ones always sparkle louder.